So what we are going to do is AC circuits part 3. It is actually introduction to AC circuits part 3. We have, students are advised to go through the first and second part already done in the earlier uploads so that the continuity will be appreciated. Where we have already started with the mathematical treatment of any sinusoidal variation. In this particular topic, it is the sinusoidal variation of current with respect to time, or EMF with respect to time, or charge on a capacitor with respect to time, or the current flowing through an inductor with respect to time, all these, and flux or magnetic flux associated with the generator with respect to time. All these will be sinusoidally varying and hence the simple harmonically varying, and therefore they all fall in line. As far as the treatment is concerned, they will fall in similar lines. Now we have already seen how if I take t in from t equal to 0 to t equal to t, in steps of t by 8, omega t will vary from omega t equal to 0 to omega t equal to 2 pi in steps of pi by 4, and sin omega t will vary sinusoidally with omega t. Starting from sin omega t equal to 0. Next, this is the first one. So t the first one is A. T varies from, we are varying t from, considering t from 0 to capital T in steps of t by 8. Accordingly, correspondingly, omega t will vary from omega t equal to 0 to omega t equal to 2 pi and in steps of pi by 4. And C, the sin value will sinusoidally vary. We can't find a range because it will start increasing, reach a maximum, then decrease, reach and go to the negative value, and then again once again reach a maximum in the negative side once again. So the variation is sinusoidal, so we cannot fix a range as we do for the x coordinate. Now D will be this. So I as a function of omega t also varies sinusoidally with respect to omega t. Omega 2 starting from 0. These are the points that you should remember, and we are going to go into steps of this. Apart from this, you also should remember that for omega t ranging from 0 to pi by 2, the quadrant will be the first quadrant. For omega t ranging from pi by 2 to pi, the angle will be in the second quadrant. And then for next point, for omega t ranging from pi to 3 pi by 2, the quadrant will be third quadrant. And for omega t ranging from 3 pi by 2 to pi, it will be in the fourth quadrant. As far as the angle measures are concerned, depending upon what factor of pi or pi by 2 it is, it will find itself in the one of the four quadrants as shown here. And the next one will be for, you should remember that sine of 0 is equal to sine of pi equal to sine of 2 pi equal to 0. Sine of pi by 4 equal to sine of 3 pi by 4 equal to sine 45 equal to 1 by root 2. Then sine of 5 pi by 4 equal to sine of 7 pi by 4 equal to again minus sine 45, that is equal to minus 1 by root 2. Then sine of pi by 2 equal to plus 1, sine of minus pi by 2, 3 pi by 2 equal to minus 1. These are in terms of the sine values, whatever we are studying this. Previously we saw how omega t will settle itself in the first quadrant or second quadrant or third quadrant or fourth quadrant. Now what happens to the sine function? This is how it will vary. So let me see if I have taken hold of all the angles that are possible in steps of pi by 4. This is 0, this is the next one pi by 4, after that pi by 2 here, and then 3 pi by 4, yeah, and then after 3 pi by 4 it will be pi, yes, we have done. After pi it will be 5 pi by 4, yes, it has come. And then after 5 pi by 4 it will be 5 by 3 pi by 2. Where is it? Here. We have already done the 3 pi by 2. And then the next will be 7 pi by 4 and then 2 pi. So we have got all the entries made and we have got the values for these as far as the signs are concerned, sign values are concerned. Next will be how does I vary? I as omega t. It will go in steps of 0, comma, I naught by root 2, comma, I naught, comma, next will be again I naught by root 2. This is how it will go on, it's varying. Next will be 0, next minus I naught by root 2, next will be minus I naught, then minus I naught by root 2, then 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 values we have already got. This is how I and omega t will vary. So having known all this, the summary of all this will be cast on the tabular column as shown here. This will be a a compact form of the tabular column. That's what we are going to do. And then once again the tabular column will be cast only for x and y coordinates of the various points in study and the graph. Both will be juxtaposed alongside. Now the first graph will be like this. The function is I equal to I naught sine of omega t. I as a function of omega t will be like this. Serial number what point you are going to call it as point P. The general term is P. Individual points will be P0, P1, P2, P3, P4 like that, etc. And then what is your T? How are you going to choose your T values in steps of T by 8, capital T by 8? And then how does omega vary according to T of your choice? And how does sine omega T vary according to our choice of this? And then how does I as a function of omega t vary? We have to contain all the 9 serial numbers. So the first one will be P0, showing that it is for t equal to 0. That's why I put P0 here. And then t will be equal to 0. Omega t will also be 0. Sine omega t will also be 0. I as a function of omega t is also equal to 0. Then the second serial number will be P1, for which this is getting an increment of t by 8, and omega t will get an increment of pi by 4. Sine omega t will be 1 by root 2, and this is plus here, and this will be first plus I naught by root 2. The third one will be P2, point will be P2. Then it will be t by 2t by 8, which will be t by 4, and this will be omega t will be pi by 2, and this will be plus 1, and this will become plus of I naught amplitude value. The fourth one will be P3. That will be after 2t by 8 it will be 3t by 8, and pi by 2 will become 3 pi by 4. It is still in the second quadrant, so it will be plus 1 by root 2 plus I naught by root 2. Fifth one, you have P4, 4 by t by 8 or t by 2. This will be pi, and sine pi is 0, and this will be 0. Sixth will be P5. Here after t by 2, 4t by 8, 5t by 8. And this will be 5p by 4. For which the 5p by 4 goes to the third quadrant, so minus 1 by root 2. This will be minus I naught by root 2. Seventh one will be P6. P6 will be after 5t by 8, 6t by 8 or 3t by 4. This will become 3 pi by 2 minus 1. So minus I naught, negative maximum. 8 will be P7. After 6t by 8 will now become 7t by 8. And this will become 3 pi by 2, 1.5, 1 and 7 pi by 4. That will be minus 1 by root 2. Sine value in the fourth quadrant will be minus 1 by root 2. So minus I naught by root 2. The ninth column will be P8, eighth point will be T, and this will be 2 pi, and this will be 0 and this will be 0 as well. This is the glance of the tabular column that you are going to. Now this omega t is going to be my x of p, x coordinate of p. I as a function of omega t is going to be y coordinate of p. So for the next tabular column where we want to draw the graph, we require only, I'll just show you, we require only this tabular column and this tabular column to be carried forward for our next entry into the tabular column, from which we can have the immediately graph juxtaposed. So whatever is shown in the green outline, only those two will be cast again as interdependent functions, with this being the x coordinate and that being the y coordinate. I have particularly taken omega 2 because the NCERT textbook only draws a graph omega t versus I. Therefore, we have taken the omega t as the x coordinate and this as the y coordinate. That's why I have written here xp and here I have written yp. Now, well, let me draw this tabular column as a final thing and then draw the graph. So I will divide the page into two so that you will have the tabular column here and here you will have the graph. The tabular column goes like this. All the 8 entries are there. So serial number, point P, x coordinate of point P, which is omega t, y coordinate of point P, which is I as a function of omega t. Now this is serial number. This will be my point in play. Tabular column for graph. Now serial number 1 will be my P naught, omega t will be 0 and this is also 0. The second point will be P1, omega t will be pi by 4 and y coordinate will be I naught by root 2 plus I naught by root 2. The third will be my P2, it will be after pi by 4 it will be pi by 2, this will be plus I naught. The fourth will be P3, for which 3 pi by 4 plus I naught by root 2. The fifth will be P4, it will be pi, it will be 0. The sixth will be point P5, it will be 5 pi by 4, it will be minus I naught by root 2. Seventh will be P6, 3 pi by 2 and this will be minus I naught. Eighth will be P7 and here it will be 7 pi by 8 and it will be minus I naught by root 2. Continues to be in the fourth quadrant. 3 pi divided by 2, this is the fourth quadrant, sign will be negative. Ninth will be P8. P8 will be 8 pi by 8, which 7 pi by 4, I am sorry, 7 pi by 4. Then that will be 2 pi. That will be 2 pi and here it will be 0 once again. So this is the first point. First point x coordinate like this. So we find for all the 8 points I have marked here. This is for the first point. The first point P naught has x coordinate like this, y coordinate like this. The second point, x coordinate like this, and then y coordinate like this. For the third point, P2, P pi by 2 x coordinate, and this is the y coordinate. And then for the fourth point, fourth serial number, point P3, you will have P3, this is 3 pi by 4, and this is the one. And the next point, I will take green again, P4, this will be pi, and this will be 0. And then next point, P5 like this, 5 pi by 4, and this will be minus I naught by root 2. The next point will be P6, 3 pi by 2 and minus I naught. The next point will be P7, 7 pi by 4, and this one. The last point, I'll mark it in green again. This will be my thing. So these are the 8 points. Now how are you going to mark them? Now here you will have, and you will draw the graph. This will be my omega t, and this will be my I. All below the mean line will be minus I, and above that will be plus I. You will get a sinusoidal curve like this. Like this. This will be my P naught. This will be my P1. This is my P2. P3. This is my P4. This is my P5. This is my P6. This is my P7. And this is my P8. Now, if you draw perpendiculars from P1, P2, P3, P4 is already on the x-axis, no need of perpendicular. P5, P6, you draw a perpendicular from P6 to the x-axis, and P7 to the x-axis, and P8 is already on the x-axis. P0, P4 and P8 are already on the x-axis. P1 and P3 are on the positive side. P5 and P7 are on the negative side. P2 is on the amplitude value on the positive side. P6 is on the amplitude value negative side, maximum value. These are the summary of the whole thing. Now marking the omega t values, this will be 0, this will be pi by 4, this will be pi by 2, this will be 3 pi by 4. This will be pi. This particular point will be pi plus pi by 4, which is 5 pi by 4. 6 pi by 4 will be 3 pi by 2. This particular point will be 7 pi by 4. This point will be 2 pi. This is 2 pi. Now here, coming to the y coordinate, these both are in the same y coordinate. That will correspond to plus I naught by root 2. This y coordinate corresponds to plus I naught. These two will be in the same, having the same y coordinate on the negative y axis. So if you draw, this will be minus I naught by root 2. And if you take the P6, this will be minus I naught. So now it's clear, students can understand. Now what is the summary of the whole thing? P naught, P2, P naught, P4 and point P8 speak of I as omega t as equal to 0. The point P2 speaks of, implies I at omega t equal to plus I naught by root 2. Then point P1 and P3 have I at omega t as equal to plus I naught by root 2. Then point P4, fourth entry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, P1 and P3 we have finished. Then P5 and P6, P5 and P7 have I as a function of omega t as equal to minus I naught by root 2. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, last point P6 has I at omega t equal to minus I naught. All the 9 points are covered. This is what we saw. So here, though P1 and P3 show the same value for I as a function of omega t, and both are in the positive side, they are still not in the same phase, because beyond P1, if you take a small interval in the neighborhood of in the small neighborhood of omega t of pi by 4, it shows an increasing trend here like this, whereas here it shows a decreasing trend. So P1 and P3 are not, they are out of phase, they are not in the same phase. Same way, if you take the point P5 and P7, both of them show negative value of I naught by root 2, but still they are showing different variations, because in the neighborhood of increasing omega t value, this shows an increasing trend for the value of that instantaneous current. Here it shows a decrease here, like this, it decreases. So again, these two are not in the same phase. The other things are almost crystal clear. The confusion may arise only for P1, P3 set of points and P5, P7 set of points. So because as I told you in the previous session, the phase term is decided by 3 factors. Number 1 is magnitude of the instantaneous value with respect to the mean value or 0 value. And then the next one will be the sign, whether it is taking plus sign or minus sign. These two alone are not going to define the phase uniquely. The next one will be the tendency for further variation to follow when you take a small interval of time in the neighborhood of t or omega t, with omega t increasing through a very small infinitesimal interval. In that case, if it shows an increasing trend and another point shows a decreasing trend, once again they are out of phase. What is the actual phase relation, how much it is leading by the other one, all those things will be dealt with as and when we do the topic. This is for the whole thing of the sine function. Now coming to the cos function, I will just start with the cos function and see if I can do that. Now the whole tabular column and the graph for that briefly. I think this is enough for this session, because it may be too much exhaustive. So you can just go through this and try to understand whatever has been cast in this. The next class we will do the come to AC circuits, Part 4, mathematical treatment, taking I as equal to I naught cos of omega t. How it varies with respect to, how t varies with respect to, how omega t varies with respect to t of choice will be regardless of whether it's sine or cos function, as I told you. And the omega t lying in the first, second or third or fourth quadrant also does not depend on whether the function is varying simple harmonically as a cos function or a sine function. But the I value will vary depending upon whether it is sine of study or cos of study. All those things will be done in the next class. Thank you.